All right, welcome to the newest episode of the New Year's Six podcast. Today I'll be continuing my Week 1 preview videos, moving on to LSU, FSU, Bayou Bengals versus Free Shoes University, a game that, personally speaking, I'm hyped for because it's the two best teams that this week. But at the same time, it's bittersweet because that means one of those fan bases is going to win and one of them is going to be happy. And I hate that. Picking a winner of this game is like picking the best way, picking how you want to die. You're still going to die at the end of it. It's not good, but it's the path of least resistance in a sense. So, that's the way I'm looking at it. I don't like either of these teams. I hate their fan bases. I hate their coach. It's just going to be awful. But one of them's going to lose. That's my my bright side. My bright side of this. So, like all my other preview videos, just going to start off covering one team, the position group or players that I'm looking at. Where they did well last year. Where they need to improve for these games. All that fun stuff. So I'm going to kick it off with LSU technically being the road team in a neutral site game. But when I look at this LSU team, I look at this defense. And I look at the changes they've made because they are plenty. There's no shortage of changes out there. There's no shortage of teams that need to do things differently. The front line, I can go with the whole defense. That's the thing, the DB room has new faces, the linebacker room has new faces, the D line has new faces. I'm actually going to stick with the D line for a second. Knowing that they got Jordan Jefferson in there from West Virginia, they got Ovi Oghofo coming in from Texas. So a lot of new faces out there, and I want to see how they vibe as a defense. This feels very Lincoln Riley, Deion Sanders, Mike Norvell-esque, where Brian Kelly's bringing in a whole bunch of people from all around the country to, kind of makeshift this defense. This is college football's version of free agency in a sense. So I want to see how this defense comes together with a tough Week 1 opponent. I know it's a neutral site, but it's going to be majority FSU fans in Orlando. So how is this team going to get together? How is this team going to endure and overcome? And it's a Florida State offense that when it's locked and loaded, it's running nice. Jordan Travis is a good quarterback. Any way you get around it. Florida State was 28th in the passing offense last year. They were 13th in rushing offense last year. So it's an offense that FSU has that can beat you any way they want. A lot of that rushing attack comes from the fact that Jordan Travis is dual threat. They got good receivers out there. So if FSU can get on LSU early and this defense kind of backs down a bit and gets a little uncomfortable, then that may cause a problem for LSU. This is an LSU defense. I think it's going to get better over the course of the season. I think it's going to be the case with a lot of defenses, but the LSU team needs some time to gel and adjust, and this is a Week 1 opponent that is not going to give them that time. So I want to see what that defense can do with all those new faces coming together to make a move. In terms of what LSU did well last year and that they need to continue to do this year, especially against FSU, they were great on third down on offense. They were 9th in the country, so they were a top 10 team when it came to third down. Having Jaden Daniels as your quarterback is an advantage, a dual threat guy that can get you out of situations that that you need to get out of. So I look at it through that lens where they don't need to, they don't need a short field or a long field to get these third downs to happen. I think if they end up kind of playing chunk ball in a sense of four play all the way down the field, that's going to work because they know that they can get a first down on 3rd and 2. So if they continue to do well on third down as an offense, they can run the ball. They can still throw it. They got receivers out there. They got they still got Jaden Daniels as their quarterback. That's always going to keep them in games. So that's the way I'm looking at it. Is how can this LSU team just make the most of those third downs, gas FSU's defense out, and put it together in a way where these drives take a little bit of time, keep that FSU defense on the field, and tire them going into the third and fourth quarter. So if they're good on third down again, regardless if it's 3rd and 2 or 3rd and 12, FSU is going to be in for a long day. In terms of where LSU struggled last year, that O-line gave up a lot of sacks. They were 116th in the country last year. That O-line needs to make a pretty significant step forward this year if they're going to have a chance at an SEC championship or a national championship. Fortunately, this O-line, specifically in the center, is pretty experienced and pretty well versed. They're all the starters that I'm seeing are people who were with the team last year, so there's that familiarity. There's that team vibe that the defense doesn't have right now. So that O-line needs to take a step forward and protect their quarterback. Part of the sacks are not on that offensive line. It's due to the fact that Jaden Daniels is mobile, and as a result of that, leaves the pocket and gets sacked. But there are some preventable opportunities for this offensive line that they missed last year. And if they don't improve, LSU's not going to, they're not going to hit the mountaintop. They're going to keep climbing. They're going to be almost there, and then they're going to have to turn around. So if those three things come together, if those if the defensive transfers pan out, if LSU is still good on third down offense, and the O-line takes a big step forward, FSU is going to be in a world of pain. And again, it was a tight game last year, and if those things happen again this year, it's a good sign for LSU and maybe a sign of disaster for FSU. Speaking of FSU, let's get what they've got going on. And obviously, FSU also uses the transfer portal very religiously. As far as I'm concerned, I want to look at the offensive line, since that's where the greatest abundance of transfers comes in that are going to make an immediate impact. You have Casey Roddick coming in from Colorado. You have Jeremiah Byers coming in from UTEP, and that kind of fits the profile of what Norvell takes in the portal. So Roddick is a Dion send-off, kind of slept on. Byers is from UTEP, so he's from a lower level program. Those are the type of guys that Norvell has usually coached up and gotten more of. A guy like Jared Verse last year comes from UAlbany. At the FCS level, nobody knows who this dude is, and now he's projected to be a top 10 pick. I got to give Norvell credit, as much as it pains me. He does get the most out of these guys that he takes. And, if this offensive line can, if these offensive line that are coming in, if they can make that immediate impact, then FSU is going to be in a good spot. The way that I'm looking at it, it's an offensive line last year that was pretty good, 38th in sacks allowed. So, generally they're pretty good at protecting Jordan Travis. So these new guys that are here to plug and play, are they going to be at that same level, or is the offensive line going to take a step back? The rushing defense for LSU is was pedestrian last year. Can these new offensive line handle SEC caliber defenses compared to the Pac-12 or CUSA defenses they were playing? Because it is a pretty sizable difference. So if those offensive linemen can gel quickly and come together, then and help this offensive line take a step in the right direction, FSU is going to have a lot of time for Jordan Travis, and he'll make the most of it. Outside of that, where they were good last year and will give LSU problems this year, is that passing defense for FSU was very good. It was 4th in the country in passing defense. It shut a lot of teams down. And, as far as I'm concerned, it's going to give some problems for Jaden Daniels. If they're going to try to throw on him, they're going to shut it down. And they're bringing in Fentrell Cypress at the cornerback from Virginia. He was a highly sought-after cornerback on this, in the transfer portal cycle. So a good defensive unit, or good DB unit, is getting, theoretically even better. And that's a big concern that LSU should have, is if they're going to be good against the pass, can we pivot to the run? That's the way we got to look at it. And if LSU tries to beat FSU through the air, I think they're going to have a hard time doing it. And if FSU's DB room comes to play at the level that they did all of last year, LSU probably isn't going to be able to throw on them. And that's no disrespect to the receiver room or quarterback at LSU. They were very good last year as well. It's just a matter of a super talented group going up against another super talented group. One of them's going to come out ahead. And if it's the DB room for FSU, I think you can chalk it up as a win for them. Where FSU would need to improve, or where they need to be better, are those penalties. FSU got killed in the penalties last year, 100th in the country. So they need to show a form of discipline. They need to prevent LSU from getting anything for free. No false starts, no holding, no defensive pass interference, face mask, anything that's just going to give LSU a free ride. LSU is talented enough where they can beat you with no penalties committed. If you're going to go out there and give them 10 yards that they didn't earn, they're going to beat you any day to Sunday. So I look at that as a pretty big room for improvement for FSU. If they can get more disciplined, I think it may be tough in week one, as a team that has some pieces that need to gel against a top level opponent. But if they can gel quick, stay organized, and stay disciplined, and cut down on those penalties, LSU is going to have to earn every single yard and every single play that they get against FSU. And that's a tough, that's a tall order. That's a tough task to ask for. So, that's what I'm looking at for LSU, FSU. So if FSU cuts down on those penalties, continues to be a great DB room, and that offensive line comes together and gels quickly, then FSU is going to be the favorite here, and they're going to walk out of Orlando with a W against a top-tier SEC team. Their fans are never going to let anyone down about it. It's just, you never hear the end of it, and, they're going to start off a very promising 2023 season with a marquee win. So, with that in mind, I've covered both teams, and it's time to make a prediction. It's time to make a move here. So, with that being said, LSU is the favorite. They are favored by 2.5 points, and the total is 56.5. Now, I'm going to tell you, I hate those 2.5 and 56.5 points because they're basically spot on to what I have. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick LSU to win. I think they will cover by a teeny tiny margin, and I'm going to hit the over on 56.5. So my final score prediction is LSU 30, FSU 27. So a field goal win. The 57 puts it right above the 56.5. The 3 puts it right above the 2.5. Due to rounding errors, I like the over on 56.5 a little bit more, but it's going to be a close one. It's going to be a good one. It's really going to be a barometer for where both teams are really at. They're both in the top 10. If one of them loses, I think there's a very small chance they leave the top 10, but it really is going to rejuvenate and energize one of these teams through the rest of their season. I know FSU's got Clemson on the horizon, LSU. I'm trying to think offhand what they're leaning towards. I know Bama's in November, so they got time for that, but as they get into the heart of their SEC schedule, Mississippi State, Arkansas, Auburn, etc., in the more early part of the season, they're going to use this as that chip on their shoulder and be like, we beat them, we can beat anyone. So, as my official prediction of LSU, FSU, again, a Sunday game with a lot on the line for both of these teams, playoff hopefuls, conference champion hopefuls, just big seasons expected for both. But that's all I've got for this video. Next time I will be doing my preview video for Clemson Duke, the Monday night game, the last one that I'll be doing for week 1 before those Thursday games kick off. Very excited to cover all of these games in the depth that I have. Looking forward to Thursday's start. What do you think is going to happen for LSU, FSU? Who you got? What are your keys to the game? Comment below. And thank you for your time. Looking forward to covering the next game soon. And Thursday cannot come soon enough.